Welcome to Diablo and Dungeons and Dragons. Diablo has put out quite a bit of news lately. If you haven't been keeping track of that, they're reissuing Diablo 2, which was one of my all-time favorite video games. I played a lot of it back in middle school and high school, and Diablo 4 is just getting more and more interesting. I hope they take what they've learned from Diablo 3 and how okay that game was, and kind of push it forward. And so to kind of springboard off of that, Matthew Mercer and the crew from Critical Role did a one-shot Diablo game, and I thought, this isn't the first time that D&D and Diablo have crossed paths, and I wanted to talk a little bit about my first book that I bought outside of the Player's Handbook from 3rd edition, because I've been playing since the year like 2000 actually, and I remember seeing this at the game store that I played D&D in, and that is Diablo II Diablerie. I still go back to this book every once in a while. I mean, you can see how old it is. This was the second actual book that Wizards of the Coast and Blizzard had produced for Dungeons and Dragons. In between the first one and this one, they put out a box set that I never got. Both the first book, which was The Awakening, and the Fast Play box were both released for the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and I never really got into that system. I mean, I was a little young at that time. I was like, 10 or 11? So it wasn't until 3rd edition came out that I was finally able to actually understand what was going on. So that's where I got the Diablerie. And I still kind of love what goes on in this book. We've got some really interesting things. It's divided into 6 chapters, including an introduction. And what I love is, I mean, if you're a player of 3rd edition, not 3.5, I mean, I'm sure you can do a little bit of finagling and turn it into 3.5. It's very easy to do. You've got the character creation, some equipment, some spells, some magic items, some monsters. And if you're a Diablo 2 player, these monsters will give you... and then an actual small campaign that I've actually run and transported into the 5th edition. That is Morgan's Keep. And it's really fun. They've got a really nice map on there. I love these maps. Like, you have a full dungeon that I repurposed, both the upper levels and then the actual catacombs of there. Very, very fun. And I love the different monsters that you can throw at them, all found within this book. And some of the monsters, as I mentioned, if you don't look at the vampire and immediately recoil and be like, ugh, not these guys again. Or same with the Wraith. Again, I'm looking at the Wraith and I'm just brought right back to too many hours trying to defeat just overloads of them. Let's see here. What's another one that I loved? Oh, you got the Goat Man. Yeah, you got the Goat Man there. And some of the stats you can actually either beef or nerf some of these, like depending on some of the different ones. Like, you've got the Gargoyle here and how you can beef them up. Same with the Goatman. So I love the fact that this book essentially gives you a blueprint to take your characters right from level 1 all the way until, I mean, if you're playing in 3rd edition, 25. It's really interesting, and it goes pretty heavily on how to use them, what it means. So it's also very introductory focused in that sense, which is really, really great. Like, where to put these monsters in terms of I have these monsters, where do I put them? So it tells you about the different terrains, specifically to Diablo. So you've got the jungles, you got the deserts, you got the catacombs, you got hell. So it's really interesting to kind of give you that little bit of a handhold to help new DMs out, because I used this in terms of some of my very first DMing games, and it really, really did help. I also love some of the magical items that they have on here in terms of what it can do. Some of the randomized tables that we have in terms of the items, as you can see, it just goes on for pages. And I love some of these in terms of the owner cannot regain hit points while the item is being carried, not even being worn, but being carried. The owner cannot cast spells while the item is being carried. Spells that affect the user's mind last until dispelled. So there's some really fun curses that you can throw at players in terms of cursed items. I love these kind of randomizations. You've got some increases within the hit points depending on which animal is on there. There's the increase hit points of the jackal, of the fox, of the jaguar. So they still kind of earth themselves into the Dungeons and Dragons era. And then, of course, you've got the magical items, and they're really fun. You can actually roll a D100 and just like pull out that and then just like roll continuously on these. So if you were to roll a D100 and get like a 21 to a 35, you have improved saving throws. And then there's a whole bunch of all different stones that you could attach to that. So if there's like a lapis, you have a +2 to save versus cold, which is really fun if you were to like imbue these magical items with those certain stones on there. So yeah, this book, in terms of like all the different tables of items on here and all the different like magical items, really, really tasty, really, really fun. And so you also have like how to use them and how to put them into your games. I know I'm kind of working backwards in this book, but hey, I've got dyslexia, so that's how I do. You've got the regular armor, so kind of an adjunct to what you have in the player's handbook, the potions and all that fun stuff. Now you also have feats now and skills. So if you're playing in 3rd edition, those were a pretty big thing back then. They're less so now in 5th edition. I mean, you can take a whole bunch of feats, but I find that they're not as used when you compare it to 3rd edition. But I also like, again, really nice tables, really fun in that sense. Let's talk about the character creation a little bit, because you have all the staple characters from the original Diablo 2, starting with the Amazon, going to the Barbarian, to the Necromancer, to the Paladin, and to the Sorcerer. And again, you have all the skills all the way up from level 1 to 25, how they skill, how they progress, the different skills and spells they have to cast. Really, really fun and easy to kind of make a character with these stats and skills. So it's really, really easy and really fun to kind of flip through. And if you're a fan of 3rd edition like I am, it's really fun to kind of flip through and see what they're all about in terms of this book. But yeah, it was really good, and it's still one that I keep in my collection and I refer back to. I don't really play 3rd edition anymore. Even now, when I'm kind of lost for ideas, I'll flip through this and be like, oh, that's a really good item that I can throw in there, or that's a really interesting beast that I can kind of adjust a little bit to the 5th edition. Because, I mean, converting from 3rd to 5th is fairly easy. It's a lot easier than 4th to 5th. So yeah, just figured I'd kind of showcase this, especially now that Diablo 2 and Diablo overall is coming back into, I mean, it never really left, but like getting popular again. I figured, hey, look what I got here. So yeah, there you go. Diablo 2, Diablerie. Really fun little book that I picked up way, way back when. So that's what I got for Diablo 2, the Diablerie. Have you checked out this book? If you haven't, try to track it down. I checked on Amazon, it's like $70 now. So maybe there's a PDF floating around on the internet somewhere. I recommend checking it out. It's a really good resource if you're kind of lost for ideas and you've played the same thing over and over and over again. You just want to reskin something that's already been out. Give this one a try. And if you have given it a try, let me know of your own experiences with this book and playing in a Diablo kind of world by commenting down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I'll try to upload at least one video a week, maybe once a month. I'm still kind of playing around with the format here, still kind of finding my legs. As I mentioned in the introductory video, I'm jumping out of the plane and building the parachute on the way down. Who knows if even this studio will kind of remain the same. So yeah, that's what I've got. I still need to figure out a new sign-off for this whole one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate any kind of views or feedbacks about this. And yeah, I guess until next time, may you always roll high or low, depending on the system that you're playing on. Maybe it's, may you choose the right game, or may your fun is never wrong. I'll figure out a good sign off one of these days. Yeah, I'll figure it out eventually. Until then, bye!